everybody, I am Keaton, this is Kid Catholic. And before we get into today's topic, I wanted to let y'all know that right now you can go to kidcatholic.com and order your very own Kid Catholic t-shirt. That's right, you can get your very own Kid Catholic t-shirt right now. All you need to do is go to kidcatholic.com and the shop page from there and order via there. Super easy, so please go check that out. And for today's topic, I wanted to do relics. Saintly relics, so obviously saintly relics. What other relics would there be? That was a dumb thing to say. So let's get into it. So I want to start off by explaining the different classes of relics. There are 3 different classes of relics. There's a first class relic, which is a part of a saint's body, like St. Thomas the Doubter's finger. Or, for example, I recently was lucky enough to get and go see St. John Vianney's heart, which is also a first-class relic. A second-class relic is something that a saint wore or used. For another example, when I went to Rome this past September, I was lucky enough to go to the town of Assisi, and in Assisi, under the Church of St. Francis and St. Clare, you can see some of their clothing that they wore, and so something like that would be a second-class relic. A third-class relic is something that was touched to a first-class relic. So there are different classes of relics, and I just wanted to explain that to begin things. However, a lot of people can sort of consider relics kind of creepy, which is fair. I mean, seeing St. John Vianney's heart, seeing a finger, in Rome there's St. Mary Magdalene's foot, things like that. I mean, it can be creepy. You could easily put it that way, and there's nothing we can say to argue against that. But at the same time, it's cool. It's not like a creepy, like, horror movie type creepy. It's like a cool creepy, you know? It's a holy person, a part of a holy person, especially first-class relics, I want to specify. First-class relics is what people consider creepy. And, I mean, that's fair enough, dude. You can consider it creepy. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but it's a cool creepy, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a creepy that'll, like, freak you out or anything. It's a cool thing to see and get to venerate. Now, I also want to talk about the point of having relics because I don't know about y'all, but at least for me, when I was younger, that was one of the big questions that I had. It was like, what's the point of keeping these relics? What's the point of keeping these things? Why do we have them? And so a couple things. One, I feel like the connection between the past and the present. Like, for example, I'll use St. John Vianney. Like, I've heard the story of St. John Vianney so much, right? He's one of my favorite saints. And so I've heard that story before, but to actually get to see it in, like, a realistic sense, and, like, that it actually is his heart. Same with St. Francis and St. Clare of Assisi, right? I knew their stories, I had heard their stories growing up, but it's different when you actually get to see what they wore, right? And there's also St. Peter, the chains that he had on, right? That's a second-class relic, right? You get to see that for real. It just gives it such a real sense. And so I feel like that helps with not only the physical connection, but the spiritual connection between now and back then, even 2,000 years ago, with St. Peter and the chains that he had on. And not only that, but I mean, think about it like this. I'm a big sports fan. I know some of you guys are. It's the same reason a sports fan might have a baseball that he caught at a baseball game. Or a sports fan might buy a game-worn jersey, right? An autographed jersey. It's the same thing, right? You're not necessarily fans of the Saints, but the Saints can inspire us, right? We can look up to the Saints because we are aiming to get to where they are now. They are in heaven. We are aiming to get there, right? And so that might be the same with sports fans. You know, they inspire us. We are aiming, let's say, I don't know, if you play basketball and there's an NBA player who you look up to, you are aiming to make the NBA like that player. And so having something of theirs or seeing something of theirs would be really cool. It's the same with the saint, right? Even if we're really not in the front of our mind, we all should be aspiring to be the saints, right? We all should be aiming toward the goal that they have reached because we know for a fact that they're in heaven, right? So we should be aiming toward that goal, and they should inspire us. And so it's the same reason as that, to see something, to know that there is something that proves that that saint is real. It's absolutely incredible. Not only that, but incorrupt saints, right? Incorrupt because after the body dies, normally, you know, it disintegrates, right? Normally the body disintegrates and there's only a skeleton left. That's not the case with a lot of saints, right? For example, St. John Vianney's heart. heart that I was lucky enough to get to see, that's incorrupt, right? Things like that, incorrupt saints, things that prove our faith. And it's really cool to see stuff like that. So it's not just a spiritual or physical connection, but it's also just genuinely cool. Now, another thing I want to talk about is why do we venerate them, right? Why do we venerate these relics, and something that I want to emphasize is just like the saints, we do not worship these relics, okay? These relics are not something that we worship, not something that we bow to or genuflect to, right? The saintly relics. What we only worship God, right? We don't worship the saints, we don't worship their relics, but we rather venerate their relics. And that's because, to be honest, they're holy things, right? And a lot of times you'll see a first-class relic have a connection to that saint in some way. For example, St. Thomas the Doubter's finger. That finger touched the side of Jesus Christ, right? So it's connected through that way. That finger has touched Jesus. That adds extra weight to how important it is and how cool it is, and it makes it a holy thing, right? Because it has touched Jesus. St. Mary Magdalene's foot, right? It's also in Rome. That is the first foot that stepped in the empty tomb. The empty tomb, right? And so that relic is holy as well. And so there are connections like that. Really, any relic is holy of a saint, right? Because the saints have been to heaven. The saints were holy people, right? And so they are worth venerating, right? I shouldn't compare relics to sports memorabilia, because that's an analogy that I use, but they're not the same thing, right? Because the other stuff is just random junk that at the end of the day it's not junk, it's awesome. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything, right? It's pure dust when it comes to heaven. However, these saintly relics, they are something that is not dust when it comes to heaven, right? That is not worthless. And that's very hard to find, because in our day today, everything material is worthless, right? At the end of the day, it's worthless when it comes to getting to heaven, right? You have the camera that I'm using now, it's completely worthless. Cell phones, worthless. Social media, worthless. And even though it might be worth something to us right now, at the end of the day, they're worthless. Relics are not that way, right? Relics are not worthless. And so that's something else that is so cool about them. And that's part of why we venerate them, is because they're genuinely holy objects, right? They are holy objects that deserve to be venerated, not worshipped. But they are super cool, holy objects. Even the third-class relics, things that have been touched to a first-class relic, right? The first-class relic was holy because it was a part of a body of a saint. Then the third-class relic that touched that is also holy. You see, like, all relics are holy and deserve to be venerated. There are a ton of relics in Rome. I've explained this a lot. St. Croce in Jerusalem had a wall of awesome relics. A piece of the cross that Jesus was on. You see, it doesn't just have to be something saintly that can be a relic, because that's Jesus, right? That's sort of like, not technically, but sort of like an extra first-class relic, right? Because it's something that Jesus was on. There was a beam of a thief who was on the side of the cross next to Jesus. And so things like that in Rome. There's a ton of them in Rome. And it's really cool to see. But also think about it, right? Relics are holy objects that have to do with a saint, right? Because a saint is anybody who is in heaven. Now, like I said, we're all striving to be saints, right? We're all aiming to be saints. So we better start collecting our relics now, because we're all supposed to be a saint. So I don't know, this camera lens that I'm holding right now, I touched it, so hopefully it'll become a relic, right? Same with you. Look, I don't know, your pillow that you sleep on, right? You should become a saint, so that pillow should become a relic. Just things like that. That sounded funny in my head. Like, the weird thing is that most of the time when I say a joke that, like, isn't funny, I at least sort of get it, but, like, that one it wasn't even a joke, it was just factual. So, yeah. So now that the topic is done, it's time for
the Saint of the Week.
So for today's Saint of the Week, I thought I'd do a saint whose relic I was recently lucky enough to see. Like I mentioned earlier, St. John Vianney, who I was lucky enough to be able to see his incorrupt heart. When it came to my home state, I was able to go and see it. And so I wanted to talk about him. St. John Vianney has been for the longest time one of my favorite saints I heavily considered him for my confirmation saint. He's one of my favorite saints. And so I thought I'd get into his story and share it with you guys. It's one of my favorite stories. He is the patron saint of parish priests. And he's actually from France. It's where he grew up. And he wanted to become a priest. He knew that from a young age that he wanted to become a priest. But when he was going to enter the priesthood, he really just wasn't intellectually smart enough, right? He couldn't learn Latin. He wasn't smart enough for the priesthood. However, he eventually, with help from God, with prayer to God, was able to get there. And he became the parish priest of a small town in France. And there it was said that he spent, I think it's like 16 hours or 12 hours, around 12 to 16 hours a day in the confessional. Hearing confessions, just hearing confessions. That much a day. He was in the confessional that much. He wanted to help people that much that he always had confessions available. Not only that, but a big part of his story was that for a long time, for hundreds of days, he would be asleep and the devil would come and basically scare him at night, right? Scare him, because the thought was he's not getting enough sleep when it comes to confession, and the devil's thought process was he's not getting enough sleep when it comes to confession, and if I keep him up, then with lack of sleep, he'll die. And in fact, he did keep him up. He had very lack of sleep. It was said that he got maybe an hour of sleep per night. 1 hour. Sometimes even less than that for hundreds of days. Yet with the help of God, somehow he managed to stay alive. How awesome is that? That's awesome. It's awesome to hear that he managed to stay alive like that. That's very impressive, because we all know we wouldn't with an hour of sleep for hundreds of days, right? I need at least 18 hours of sleep, right, to get through the day. I can't tell if that was actually a funny joke or not, but if it was, then I'm super proud of myself. I thought it was. So yeah, in fact, this one night, the devil actually scratched his sheet, like scratch marks went through his sheet, and it was ripped, basically. But he pulled through. He stayed holy. He never left God's side. He always had faith, even when the devil was scaring him night after night after night after night. He always had faith in God. He never lost that faith, and that's something that we need to look at. He died a peaceful and holy death, and he is now a saint. So we need to look to him. Anytime we feel like we might be losing that faith, right? Because we go through some stuff, right? We go through tough stuff in life, right? That's just facts. But what he went through, getting like an hour of sleep for hundreds of days, at first, when you first think about it, it doesn't sound too bad. Actually, no, it sounds really bad. Never mind. Getting an hour of sleep per night, that's crazy. Yet he always stayed by God, and we need to look to him for help with that. So thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video. Please click the red subscribe button down below and the bell next to it. That way you get notified when I come out with a new video. Please check out all 3 of my social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The link to all 3 of those will be in the description down below. Please go check them out. Also, please go to kidcatholic.com. There you can find all my videos. Like I said, I have my t-shirts up there. You can contact me. You can read about me. There's a photo gallery up there. A full talk that I gave to a school in Marquette is up there. If you want to book me to come speak, you can just contact me from there. So yeah, please go check that out. Also, if you have any saint or topic suggestions, please put them in the comments down below, and I might just get to yours. Please click the red subscribe button down below and share this channel and video with your friends and family to help Kid Catholic grow. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next week, and hi, Brio!